this morning. It's 1 Samuel 3, and it's found on page 384. How do we know that we've been called to the life that we've been called to? How did we hear that voice that said, do this or do that? Sometimes I think maybe we're a little confused about that, or wondering, or maybe even doubtful, as Mandy said before. Is this really God speaking, or is it just me wanting what I want, or what is this thing that's causing me to serve or not serve? And I think it's very important that we come to understand how God calls us. Here we're going to read about Samuel, this little baby that a mother had prayed for years. She'd prayed to have a baby. She even bargained with God. She made a promise with God. If you allow me to have this baby, if it is a baby boy, I will give him back to you. Can you imagine praying for a child for years of your life, having the child, nursing the child, taking care of the child, and when he's weaned, you take him to the temple and to drop him off and leave? What a sacrifice she made. She kept her promise. She listened to God's call throughout all that time, wanting to have this child, wanting her to know that he had a specific purpose for her and her child. This child's name was Samuel. Samuel became a very special person, a very awesome prophet. And I want us to listen to his story. So, this is in 1 Samuel 3:1. The boy Samuel ministered before the Lord under Eli. Eli was a priest in the synagogue. In those days, the word of the Lord was rare. There were not many visions. In other words, God was silent. The people had become so unresponsive to him and his directive, his communication, he thought, what's the point? Until we actually have somebody that will listen to my call, listen to my voice, why should I speak? We all get there. If we are talking to somebody and we know that they aren't listening, pretty soon, what do? Shut up. We become quiet, because what's the point of wasting our energy? One night, Eli, whose eyes were becoming so weak that he could hardly see, was lying down in his usual place. This is in the synagogue. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying down in the house of the Lord, where the ark of God was. Then the Lord called Samuel. So when I said that Eli was lying in the synagogue, we see the proof of it here. The lamp of the Lord is lit every night, and it slowly goes out in the synagogue. And then the Lord called Samuel. And Samuel answered, "Here I am." And he ran to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called me." This young boy, must have been about 10 or 12 years old now, was ministering to this old man who was losing his sight, probably losing his hearing, probably barely able to walk, and yet he was still functioning in a way that he'd been called in his childhood to be a priest in this synagogue. And this young boy was ministering to him, fulfilling his needs, his food, his cleanliness, his company, his everything. This boy's life revolves around this old man. And when he heard the call, he also was in his bed. And he come to the old man, to Eli, and said, "Here I am. You called me." But Eli said, "I did not call. Go back and lie down." So he went, and he lay down. Again the Lord called in Samuel, "Samuel." And Samuel got up, went to Eli, and said, "Here I am. You called me." Can you imagine what's going through his mind when he hears this? "My son," Eli said, "I did not call. Go back and lie down." Now, me of my generation, if I'd have been 10 or 12 years old, would have thought, "You old fool, I know you called me. You're losing your mind. Fine, I'll go lay back down." That's who Archie was. And maybe he is. Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord. The word time the Lord called Samuel. And Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called me." Then Eli realized that the Lord was calling the boy. So Eli told Samuel, "Go and lie down, and if he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place. How many people have come to us because they thought we had called them? People that we know intimately have come to us to serve, to be a part of us, to be in our inner circle. They come to us and saying, "Did you call me? Can I help you? I'm here to minister to you. I know you called me," and we turn them away. Maybe it's somebody we're intimate with, but we really don't have time for. Go lay down. Go back to your own place. Be quiet. I'm tired. I need rest. Go lay down. And yet God calls us to that person again. And over, and Eli finally realized what was going on. God was talking to this young man, to this child. And he was wise enough to know to say, "Listen and answer." And this is how you answer. People are coming to us repeatedly, whether we know it or not, looking for God. They're looking to us for direction to God. They're coming to us for understanding of who this God is that we serve, because they're hungry. They want to know. And oftentimes we are not brave enough, confident enough, filled with doubt, whatever that is, or just don't want to, and we do not share Jesus Christ with these people. Or the situation is too hard. We feel it's beyond our ability to do that. And yet, quite frankly, as we said in the Sunday school class this morning, it is time for each one of us here sitting in this room today, in this room. What's that song? In this room?
In this very room.
In this very room. In this very room, God is here through His Spirit, and He is speaking to us and saying, "Listen to the people around you, for I am speaking to them, and you are no longer a disciple. Today, you have become an apostle, a teacher, an instructor, a life giver, and you are to give them the instruction on how to hear my voice and what to say when they hear my voice." That is who we are today. Yes, I just put a bunch of weight on all of us, our shoulders. And you can bear it. God has prepared us for every single thing that happens to us. He has prepared us in the past, in the present, and in the future. His hand will always be there. But we have to be willing to hear. We cannot be the people that God said, "I am being quiet because nobody is listening. Therefore, they will not hear my voice. They will not see the visions. They will not see the miracles going on around them. They will become blind and deaf and old in spirit." That is not who God is calling us to be. He is calling us to be those people that excite the youngsters, to bring them up, that they might know God's calling and know how to respond to Him. The Lord came and stood there, calling as at the other times, "Samuel, Samuel." Can you hear Him? Carolyn, Jan, Gail, Hank, Sharon, Barb, Garth. Can you hear Him? Can you hear Him calling your name? Do you remember when He first called your name? The first time? Can you remember the last time? Is He calling your name now? Then Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant is listening." What an awesome phrase. Your servant, we, God's servants, are listening. We in this place have the ability to hear, to see, to know. Intimately know. God's request of us individually and corporately. Who's hearing the call? Who's brave enough to say that they've heard the call? And the Lord said to Samuel, see? In other words, listen, be still. See? I'm about to do something in Israel that will make the ears of everyone who hears about it tingle. We can relate to that. To become so excited about it that their ears tingled. In other words, the blood pressure went up so far that they could not help but hear the pounding in their ears. That awe moment, that aha moment, that moment that they became awake of something greater than themselves. God must have come back to us. We are going to hear God's voice again. To make their ears tingle, to make them so hungry that they want to hear the next word. What is the next word? God says his name is I am. And I have said this in the past. What does that simply mean? But once I become somewhat spiritually mature, God said, I am love. I am hope. I am truth. I am. Everything that is good is God. I am. Everything that is bad is not God. Everything. Make the distinction. There is a black and white. There is a line in the sand. And what shows us that is God's calling through this book. If we do not come into the Bible and read it, we will not, cannot hear God's voice clearly. We get indications of it. We get small little visuals of it. But until we immerse ourselves into this book, unless we, by the Spirit of God, say, please soften my heart. Allow me to become the vessel that you can use, that you created me to be. Allow me to hear your voice, to feel your Spirit within me, to understand the gift, the tools that you've given me to accomplish your will. What is your will? At that time I will carry out against Eli everything I spoke against his family. Can you imagine Samuel hearing what God is going to do to Eli? This person that had basically become his father. This is the person that he's with year in and year out. His mother gets to come and visit him once a year. One time a year since she gave him up. She presents him with one gift every year. A new garment of clothing that she has made with love. Can you imagine the tears coursing down her face as she's preparing this thing, as she's weaving this together to give to her son a year from now? And yet, when she comes to him, can you imagine the joy that she is seeing, that she is experiencing, that she is feeling, that she is consumed with as she places this garment on him? And it fits him perfectly. And he knows that every inch of this thing was built with love specifically only for one person, him. This is how God presents us. This is how he clothes us. He will meet us wherever we are, however often we will agree to meet him, and he will reclothe us in a way that he can see us as pure. How does he see us pure? Through Jesus Christ's sacrifice. We are washed clean. And God is willing to meet us anywhere, anytime, anyhow, any place. We allow him to. He wants that relationship. Eli was a terrible father. His sons were terrible sons, and they were priests. And they did absolutely detestable things to God. They took the fatty portions of the sacrifice before it was given to God. No. After it was given to God, they plucked it out of the bowl and consumed it themselves, rather than allowing that to be taken care of by God first. In other words, they were greedy, self-absorbed, selfish, prideful, everything that is not of God. And yet they were called to be, as priests, everything of God. What are we robbing from God today? Can we hear this call? God calling us back to him. He says, can you feel your ears tingling? Can you hear your heart pounding in your ears? Can you feel it coursing in your chest? Can you just feel this whole thing that is of me? Because I created you pure. Did you know that? God created each one of us pure. But our human nature takes over. And we turn from him. What are we robbing God of? I don't know how to help us hear God call more, other than take a moment a day, 1 minute, just 1 minute, and open up this book, open up this Bible, open up this inspired Word of God. And through His Spirit, we have to prayerfully say, God, through your Spirit, I claim the victory of understanding your Word. And He will take you in a place into the Bible that will mean something to you. If you're in the Bible and it's a confusing place, go somewhere else. You're not bound to read any one place at all. But you are bound, I am bound, to read something somewhere in this thing that I might truly hear God's voice calling my name. Somebody said to me the other day, pray for God to give you a huge desire, passion, to get into the Word. Because I cannot do it. Archie Hook cannot do this on my own. I cannot honestly desire heavily to get into this book on my own strength, my own power, my own will. I cannot do it. I have to ask God, show me what you want me to read and give me the passion to do it, to understand. I do not want to interpret. I want to understand. But God says, no, I want you to interpret. He says, I want you to share it with those around you what you have come to understand. And that's what He's telling each of us. This breath I just took is not my breath. This life that I live is not my life. They all belong to God, and He has given them to me for a time. A time. Yesterday I did an awesome wedding for a Christian couple. I almost refused them. Like I've said before, maybe to some of you, I really don't enjoy doing weddings anymore because my heart about it is hardened because of the failures that I've seen of the weddings that I've performed. And God said, it's not about you. Wow. Really? It's not, it's not about me. God said no. You're here to serve and do the things I ask you to do. And these people came to you through a chain of events to ask you to perform this service for them. Service. I was hugely blessed by doing this service for these people. What an awesome opportunity to come together in the name of God. Even more so, we did this at the Elgin Christian Church. That church holds about 120 people, and it was full for the first time in how many years? The music that came from that place, the absolute beauty of the people sitting in those pews